I'm not a lawyer, but there has been a lot of testimony over the last 2 weeks in the Take Care of Maya trial. So let me fill you in on some of the big witnesses. Before we get into it, let me set up that the plaintiffs, aka the Kowalski family's attorneys, rested their case and their witnesses. So now the defense, aka Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital, has been presenting their version of events with their witnesses on the stand. And just so we're all clear, Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital believes Maya does not have CRPS.
Our position is and has been that Maya Kowalski does not have CRPS, that she has a psychogenic disorder of some sort, and that is what we suspected at the time of hospitalization. Throughout the hospitalization, however, we never ruled out CRPS. It cannot be definitively ruled out.
And the reason that is important is because the hospital says if they didn't, and still don't, believe that Maya had CRPS, but did believe that Beata had Munchausen by proxy, all of their actions and the steps that they took were out of concern for Maya's health and her safety.
That it was reasonable for us to suspect that there was a Munchausen by proxy or a factitious disorder by proxy going on here, and that we were reasonable in acting upon that as we did and attempting to treat this patient as we did. And that is why reports were made, and that is why suspicions were hatched, and that is why we attempted to act as we did.
So the context behind that clip is that they were requesting that evidence be allowed in that would speak to Beata having what they claim to be Munchausen by proxy. The Kowalski family's attorney obviously objected.
So we object to the admission of evidence at this point of Munchausen by proxy or documents aimed at shoring up suspicions of Munchausen by proxy.
Here is a clip on the judge's position of this topic.
Assume for the sake of argument, mom had Munchausen or whatever of those terms you wish to apply. Does that change anything with respect to how the hospital should be treating its patient, who is not the mom, but Maya?
It's not clear to me how he actually ruled on this overall because they ended up breaking for recess and then witnesses got started. This next clip is of a doctor by the name of Elva Mendes. He was a physician that Beata had taken Maya to see twice in 2015. So Maya saw this doctor prior to her extended stay at Johns Hopkins All Children's. He conducted some labs on Maya, and as a result of those labs, his findings were this.
So I was concerned about Munchausen by proxy at the time.
Okay, and why was that?
Because the symptoms, the physical examination, the objective tests that I've reviewed in medical records did not correlate with the story I was getting from mom. There was a constant, the first is the numerous lower respiratory complaints, the asthma picture, the severe asthma, and that was used a lot in a lot of the notes, severe asthma, severe asthma, severe asthma. In my experience, we have someone with severe asthma admitted to a hospital for a few days and comes out with normal breathing tests, completely normal spirometry. The lung doesn't work that way. I'm just being honest with you. You can improve their ability to breathe with medications, but the breathing test was always going to show you some degree of changes in the lungs. There's always going to be there.
When the family attorneys cross-examined him, they asked him about how he came to suspect that Beata had Munchausen by proxy. And so he testified about the drastically different behaviors that Maya had between the first visit and the second visit.
There was a change from moaning and discomfort on the first visit to normalcy, which I thought was striking. The first time I get it, there was something wrong with it. That's why we requested records. The second time, it was complete opposite behaviors. Wheelchair bound, on a laptop, very happy, very distracted with whatever she was doing at the time. And I remember specifically, this is where it hit me, when I talked about how the workup that I had done did not prove immunodeficiency. And I wasn't aware of how I could explain everything else going on. And then she went into this phase of crying, and my ear hurt, and I have a headache. So after that was over, and I tried to find out what was wrong with her, and I tried to ask Mom, "Are you okay?" Then when the visit was over, as she's wheeled out to the waiting area, everything normal again. So you asked me about that narrow comment you made. I'm looking at a whole picture that led me to believe there's something not right about this.
He then later testified that he wasn't all that familiar with CRPS and what the symptoms were and what lesions were associated with it. So, okay, the next witness I'll tell you about is Richard Elliott, and he was the anesthesiologist for the hospital. Here's a clip of him explaining why he started to question the CRPS diagnosis for Maya.
There were a lot of inconsistencies in the symptoms that were reported and things that were observed. Maya complained of what we call allodynia, or light touch to her legs, and couldn't tolerate things on there at times. At other times, she would have skinny jeans very tight on her legs, which was very inconsistent and incongruent with allodynia. Would be one example. There would be times where I would see Maya with anklets on her ankles, but if someone would attempt to touch her leg lightly, then she would complain of pain. Just very much inconsistent with the diagnosis of CRPS.
And on cross by the family's attorneys, it was confirmed that even though Richard Elliott did review Maya's previous medical records about her lesions, even records from her primary care physicians, when asked if Maya has CRPS, this is his answer.
And let me get this straight. Does Maya Kowalski have CRPS, or does she not have CRPS?
What do you mean? So if you
Does
read
Maya Kowalski
if you read my
have
notes,
a proper diagnosis of CRPS, or does she not?
If you read my notes, I never rule out CRPS.
Okay.
However, it is less likely given her clinical presentation and the inconsistencies, some of which I had already shared.
So there's a ton more testimony. General consensus from the hospital is that their actions were because all of their staff members believe that Maya did not have CRPS. There's still another witness I want to tell you about, so come back for part 2, and I need to update you on what happened today. Come back.